thank you so much, Abu, for taking some time for us to chat. Last time we chat was like maybe a year ago for the release of Tales of Kenzera Zao.
Yeah.
How have things been like ever since the release of that game? I guess one of the first things I wanted to learn from you is like, what was the maybe like the definitive experience from, releasing a
Yeah.
game for the first time?
It's been brutal. Like, truthfully, I think it's been an interesting experience. Again, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into when it comes to diving into the games industry, making games, or even releasing a game. I think I was very much of the mentality of like, okay, just go along as we are and see how it is. And I think in truth, the the sort of ignorance to it all kind of gave a sense of vulnerability to it, in the sense that like I had no idea what to expect. Um, it was beautiful seeing reactions, but it was also really painful to see reactions. And I think
Mm,
like that's the truth of my experience since having launched Zao. Also, the reality of the industry as a whole. I think we're still in quite a tricky time at the moment in regards to the industry trying to figure out what it is, what they're trying to, what it wants to be. Um, that I think getting caught up in the mix of that also wasn't easy. But
yeah.
again, it's had beautiful moments. The amount of people who have come up to me and said that they have felt seen in regards to their grief, a way of depicting their grief and their journey of grief, has been astounding. The fact that we won a BAFTA award, like, I would, as an actor, you dream of the BAFTAs, or you would imagine like, oh man, getting a BAFTA is incredible. So to actually have won one for something that has been created, not just as me acting in it, but to have created in this whole thing has been, far from. I can't even explain how brilliant it feels.
Mm,
So it has been this like really raw, brutal, and beautiful experience since launching Zao.
yeah. I think a lot of people feel very proud of the fact that this game exists. No
Mm,
matter the numbers, no matter it's all about the message and the playfulness. And
mm.
I saw a lot of excitement from me, obviously, and from a lot of the people who played the games. Are there like some key stuff that you think you learned and that you took for
Yes,
that take? Yeah.
definitely. I think one of the big lessons that I learned um, is essentially what it takes to make a game and ship a game.
Mm,
Like, I think like that's a real key uh, factor of what I've learned as a whole. What I mean by that, I mean like where to kind of take time, where not to take too much time, where not to waste time, essentially. Things like, for example, cuts, and expecting cuts, knowing that cuts are going to come in order to kind of get something through the door, as long as it serves the experience. Like, I think that has been a real big lesson in
right.
regards to it, chasing that fun as well. um I would say another, I think there's other, factors of like not to take everything so seriously.
Mm,
I think, not to say that Zao shouldn't have been about grief and it shouldn't have been a personal project. I think it needs to come from a personal place. But I think, I'm talking about the realities of the industry as a whole,
mm,
reviews, elements of criticism, that kind of stuff. It's like, rather than taking it to heart, it's all there to essentially aid the journey and to better yourself. And I,
mm.
I think like that's key. It's like getting rid of the ego and throwing that and tossing that aside and being like, okay, cool, what do you think could have been better? And whether you agree or disagree with it, it's that's the whole dialogue and conversation you need to continually have with yourself. I think that was something that we really, I really wanted to take on board from Zao onto the next game and onto the future games that we make. um I would say, like, one of the things as well is how to run a team. I think,
Right.
I think that's a big lesson. I think Zao was very much forming that team, and it was very much a sense of figuring also how you lead, figuring out where you stand in that front. And then, taking the big lesson there was knowing what you're comfortable with, what you're uncomfortable with, and kind of addressing those and using those. So yeah, I'd say there was big lessons with Zao. And again, fortunate to have worked with like a beast like EA, because these are like traditional um systems that have allowed them to live and survive for so long. So then to apply that to, the studio itself has really helped keep us afloat in what's quite trying times.
Mm, I understand that. Okay, so just after the release of Zao, you already announced that you were working on another game. I think the name
Mm.
was Project Olorun at the time.
Yeah, Uso. It was Uso.
Uso, there you go.
Mm.
Uso with some cyborg stuff and like,
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
that still happening right now, or is
It's
this like
it
the third game from Surgent Studios?
Yeah, no, it's cooking in the background. I think it's
Okay.
it's a that's like almost like our passion project. That's our like passion, darling.
Mm,
And I think like for me, it's that's the one thing that I don't want to rush. I think that that's a project where I need to find the right partner. I need to find the right sort of uh move forward with it before kind of pushing it out there. So I don't know whether it's going to be our third game or whether it's going to be our fifth game, or if it's going to be one of those games, it's going to be our last game. I don't
yeah.
know. I think for me, I'm allowing that game to kind of talk to me a bit. I'm treating it very much as like an artistic sort of project. I think like there is a we have it in film all the time where writers or creators have that one film that they keep in the sort of loaded, where they are working on it as it kind of goes along, because they want it to be good, they want to serve it, they want to give it a lot of justice.
Mhm.
And I think like that's my like little silver bullet. I think like there is obviously the tendency that you can overwork something and think about it too much, but I think with this, it is about finding the right partner, the right person who will allow us to kind of be bold and be daring
Mhm.
um with it, and aren't necessarily too phased about like the traditional sense of what it means to make a video game. I
Mhm.
think like I want to kind of go full balls to the wall with it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting to see your journey, especially through games, because I knew you as an actor before, but not so much
Mm,
as a game developer. And maybe some of us thought that you would go with Zhao and then like get back to acting only, maybe.
mm,
It's super interesting to get to know you as a game developer, and I want to know what kind of is your vision, as a game
mm.
developer. You
Yeah,
clearly have many games you want to work on in the
yeah.
future.
I think for me, it's just about telling good stories. Like I
Mm,
think that kind of is my that's my fuel. Like I think be that either through film, TV, games. Like I just want to be a part of and tell good stories. And I think at the end of the day, the I am led by or inspired by making really cool stuff with people that I really like.
mhm.
And because again, we only have one life, like you might as
Absolutely.
well fill it with joy. And I
Mhm.
know like the realities of the world is already quite tough as it is. So the things that you do have some form of control over, live it, you know what I mean, and be happy, kind of throw yourself in happiness in that regard. I know that can sound a bit soppy, but I think it's it's something that I think I've learned a long way. I think I for a very long time, especially as an actor, you almost look for hardship. You kind of want to bleed for your art a lot of the time. And I think actually there is a better way of approaching art, which is essentially doing the things that you love and enjoy, and
Mhm.
that inspire you. And so yeah, I think I could have absolutely just turned off and been like, right, okay, I've done my game thing. Now I'm just gonna fix, you could be an actor for the rest of my life. But I don't think I would have been happy. I think I would have wanted to continue telling more stories. And I've made some really great friends in this industry, people who didn't agree with me at the beginning, people who I didn't agree with at the beginning. Like actually, in fact, we've found this really lovely middle ground. And I think you can't really find that anywhere else apart from games in a weird way.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm in a as much as difficult as the industry can be, and as the everything can be, I'm having a good time.
Hmm. That's what we love to hear, especially in
Yeah,
these difficult times. And
yeah,
amen to that. Thank you.
yeah.
I want to get back to talking about Dead Take, which is
Mm,
a completely different stories. I guess you actually made this with people that you really like. Also, you made friends
yeah.
with, as you said. So it's a walking simulator set in a
Mm,
psychological
He's always
horror escape
watching.
room.
mm.
Nothing
We
escapes him.
play as an
Brilliant.
actor who's trying to basically find his friend in the mention of
Yeah.
a some big industry shot,
Suspicious.
right?
Hmm.
And this is a horror game, and I was thinking, what made you, want to actually start telling this story? What was the inspiration from?
The big inspiration really came from there was two spaces. I'd say the one was wanting to make a game where I could,
And the way he
bring
pushes
my
his
friends
actors.
in who were in the game space, but then show them like their live action nature, and like show these actors for who they are, like what they can do, like not behind a character, like a camera in front of them, showing their face, letting them perform. I think that was a real big inspiration. The second one was the fact that, you know, Hollywood and my experience of the acting world anyway, although has been, quite fortunate and good for me, also has an incredibly dark nature to it and a dark side to it. And I feel like, especially in the times of today where, you have your Weinsteins and, your Diddies, like for me it was like, yeah, no, it was a bit of like a, screw you kind of, shout
Mm,
out to them. Like it was a sense of like being like, hey, like you are what makes this horrific. And I wanted to kind of shine a light on that, but in the shoes of an actor who is at a point where they are desperate and would do anything to be in this world, because it is incredibly, it's funny, everyone thinks Hollywood is glitz and glam. It really isn't. you
mm,
know um the biggest joke I have with friends who like say, "Oh, you went to the BAFTAs or you went to like all these award ceremonies." I'm like, "Yeah, but the food is terrible." It's like you can get better food on a high street than you can in these spaces. Like it, the the presentation isn't necessarily as pretty as you think it is. And I really just wanted to, and I know this is a known thing, I just wanted to shine a light on that a bit more
mm,
and have a bit of fun at poking at it. And I think, like, again, I've been very fortunate to have worked in this industry and with incredible artists, but stories
mhm.
like with which we all share, these horror stories which we either have to laugh at or leave
Yeah.
because it is so horrific. And I think that's what I wanted to really kind of lean into and play into, was the horror of what this industry can be in the shoes of an actor.
Mm. And how did the industry react to this story,
They
would you
love
say?
it. They
Yeah.
find it hilarious. I think, well, the ones that I talk to find it hilarious. I think every time that I've pitched it to you, or kind of said it to writers, producers, directors, they've all laughed and thought, yeah, man, like that's great. I'm sure there are people out there who are like, how dare you expose my story?
I love
So,
that.
and I'm like, well, good, because I don't want to work with you. So
Mm.
it's all right. But yeah, that's sort of where it's at.
That's like, incredible, because you could have also made the choice to like make it a short movie or something, but you decided to make a game out of it.
Yeah, again, to me, there is something really powerful about putting the player in the shoes
Hmm.
of the characters. And I think there is, for me, that was something that I really wanted to do, was, rather than tell you the story of how this actor, went through this, that, and the other, I actually want you to experience it and be in it. And
Yeah.
I think like that was really the incentive as to where it came from.
Mm. And so there was one thing that I realized when the game was announced. It was released right after, right? There are two things I want to talk about. The fact that it is being published by PocketPair, right? So
Mm,
I want to know more about this collaboration. How did it actually happen? Because
mm,
I knew PocketPair from Pal World, and I did play the
mm,
game. I actually really, really enjoyed it. And I think
mm.
it came up as a surprise for people to find out that Dead Take would be collaborated with PocketPair. So how did
Mm.
that happen?
Yeah, so funny story. I met Bucky at an awards evening. Bucky is was the communications manager at PocketPair. He still is to a degree, but he's like now the head of like publishing there. Um, and he kind of secretly told me that they were looking to get into games publishing. We both had very interesting experiences, right? I say Surgent had the experience with Zao, where it was very critically acclaimed and loved, in that regard, very moving. Powell just commercially blew up, right?
Mm,
It's like you and 40 other million players played this game,
yeah,
like, and like
that's
and
enormous.
it set them, it set them right. And I think
Mm.
like it was we were sharing this kind of like almost like congrats on this, congrats on that kind of vibe. And well, when they let me in on the secret that they were looking to publish, I had this idea cooking, and I kind of wanted to share it with them, and I pitched it to them in the room. Uh, the thing is, or the issue was, I'd promised these actors to be attached, like Ben Starr, Neil Newbern, and as soon as they called me on it, they're like, okay, cool, let's go. I literally called my mates, was like, Ben, you need to be in my game. I was like, Ben, Neil, like, you guys are going to be in my game. I've said these
Mm,
guys, I said to these guys that you're going to be in my game, you're going to be in my game. And lovingly, these, my mates kind of pulled through.
mm,
Um, but that's essentially how it came about. They were learning very much what it means to be a publisher, and we were very much also learning what it means to make a game at like a smaller scale than Zao, at a quicker time frame. We kind of put ourselves in that challenge of, Zao took what, like 3.5 years to make.
yeah.
Dead Take took seven
Mm,
months. So like for me it was, and for us as a studio, it was like, how can we make a game with a smaller budget, and also with a smaller time frame, but still deliver on an experience that can move and have an effect, as a whole.
that's amazing. I didn't know that it took only 7 months. That's
Yeah,
crazy, and the
yeah.
quality that came out, it feels like playing a movie in a game in a sense. So I
Oh,
wanted to
amazing.
address that, because I imagine that you also kind of directed the acting from Ben
Yeah,
Starr, Neil Newborn, Laura
yeah.
Bailey. How was the experience? What was it
I
like?
mean, to be honest, that's the good thing about hiring really good actors. Like a lot of the time, they do the job for you. They
Mm,
come in and they deliver. I think really, truly, my direction was essentially to ensure that it made sense within the universe of what I was wishing to tell, and also the game as a whole. I think like it was very interesting, kind of putting myself in almost a very literal directorial shoes of being directing these actors to kind of do these takes in a way, um, because it's very different to creative direction, where you're trying to ensure that the art makes sense with the design, which makes sense with the gameplay as a whole, and the sound, and all this stuff. But for me, it was real. It was a lot of fun working again with friends who I know, who knew what they were going to be, what they were going to be doing. So then we could have a lot of fun and just make things up as well, and go as we go along. Also, the beauty about doing live action is that you don't have to worry about cinematics.
yeah.
You don't have to worry about animation. So, um, to a degree, and I think like that's something that I really wanted to kind of lean into and play into, because I think a lot of the time for Zhao as well was spent and animating these beautiful sequences, um, but also it kept it real. And I think that's the thing with Dead Take that I really wanted to kind of ensure was communicated, was even though it was a game, there was UI, there was all this stuff. It was I wanted it to feel real, and
Hmm.
I wanted it to feel like this is a reality. These tapes that you find are real tapes. You never really see um the characters in game face, or even their hands. It is all about making you feel like you are playing a real person, which was really key in delivering this experience as a whole.
Mm. Talking about realness, it feels like you like to tell stories that feel very personal to yourself,
Mm,
right?
mm,
From Zao to now Dead Take.
yeah,
Um, what should we expect next? So we mentioned Project Uso earlier, right?
yeah.
And I am kind of hoping that we address like some sort of Afrofuturistic environment and
Mm.
Afrofuturistic world. Is that what this is going to be?
What, the next game?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know, you know.
Can you tell
uh,
us more?
uh,
Just tease us a little bit.
the thing is, I think again, like for me, and what drives me is essentially coming coming from a place of human truth. And what I mean by that is, like, it can be as real as grief, but it can also be as silly as having a laugh with friends. I think, like, that's truly what kind of inspires me. Everything that I try and make or do comes from a place of what you know connects us all, that goes beyond race, gender, sexuality, like just about, like, really truly what it means to be human. And so uh, 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 that's kind of where the drive of most of the content and stuff that we make comes from. So the next game is very much coming from that. I know that doesn't really give much away because there's all sorts of, like, barriers and rigmaroles that we're playing with, but just know that it comes from a place of listening to people and having fun with people. And I think that can be from scaring you in, from where you sit, to moving you to tears, to just making you have a laugh. And I think, like, that is really truly um where we come from. Like, we're not about chasing trends or about, like, um you know uh or sort of just making things for the sake of making them. I think we are at a place where we're like, no, what sparks an emotion that is universal, um no matter what it is,
Mm,
and chasing that. And so that's where our next game is going to be, which is why I think, like, even with Uso, like, I wouldn't say that Uso, I'll say this now, like, I don't think Uso will be our next game, but I think, because I think, because I'm still kind of mining that. But when it's ready, it's ready. But I think that the next game still will evoke something, I feel, with players that will, again, kind of see them enjoy gaming, which is a great medium and a great place to do and be.
absolutely. And a lot of people tend to forget that. I like that you basically come back to like the basics, right? Like
Yeah.
having fun and getting back to the humanity and how
Yeah.
people can just get to enjoy just little pieces of lives, but through games, right?
Yeah. And I think that
Yeah,
there's just this, it is so important. It's just so important.
it
And it's
really
like,
is.
it's one of those ones where, I guess, yeah, I don't know, maybe I get that hate and anger sells to a degree, but, like, and I get that. It's this world that we live in.
Mm.
But at the same time, I guess I'm all right with trying to figure out a way that joy and happiness can sell. As you know, Omi and soppy as I say that sounds, I'd much like that. I'd much prefer that. And I think also
Yeah.
having a young daughter, it makes you kind of feel as well, like, I get more joy and more kind of sense of fulfillment with her happiness than I would through making her angry, sad, or scared. And that's just generally just how I run things and how I
Mm.
move through things and how I want to approach things.
Mm.
So ultimately, that's sort of what I'm trying to chase professionally. As long as I'm enjoying and having fun, great. That's good. And I think that as long as the people as well who I'm working with are also enjoying and having fun, fantastic, cool, let me chase that. Because you can, even, as I say, like, even with Dead Take, as horrific and as horrible as the content and the explorations of what we go through in there, people are still enjoying and are enjoying this experience. And I
Mm.
think that's key. And I think, like, that to me is what I want to kind of keep capturing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Abu, for this time together. Hopefully, people get to play that take, especially because Halloween is just around the corner, right?
Mm.
So, will there be some, like, I don't know, specific promo? Will we see more content from the game coming out
We've
soon?
got a we've got a really cool collaboration with another game developer and game coming up very soon. So that's going to be very exciting.
Let's go. Can't wait to see it. Thank you so much, Abu, and see you next time.
Thank you. Take care.